Okay, so we are in Matthew 11, or Mark 11, through verse 12 of chapter 12. So Mark 11:1 through 12:12. And we're in verse 11 of chapter 11 right now. We just covered the Hosanna entrance and the transfer of power to Jesus from the old covenant to make the new covenant. And now we're on verse 11, where Jesus enters or visits the temple for the first time after coming in as the king into Jerusalem. And Jesus went into Jerusalem and into the temple. So when he had looked around at all things, as the hour was already late, he went out to Bethany with the 12. That's it. He came in, he looked around, but he did nothing because it was too late already for the day. Instead, he went back to Bethany with the 12. So that's the first visit to the temple. He just came in, he looked around. He says, when he had looked around at all things, he looked around at all things and what was going on, but he didn't do anything yet. He just examined, just studied it, and then left. Because there wasn't enough time to do anything yet. It was too late in the day. We're on verses 12 through 14 for the first visit to the fig tree. Now it's interesting that this should follow his first visit to the temple. And then the second visit and the second visit, those are related to each other. So when we see in verse 12, it says, now the next day, when they had come out from Bethany, he was hungry. And seeing from afar a fig tree having leaves, he went to see if perhaps he would find something on it. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. So he knew it wasn't the season for figs. He knew that. But what he didn't know, did you know that Jesus didn't know some things when he was here on earth in the flesh? Well, here it says he didn't know if that tree had figs on it or not. He could only see that it had leaves, but he didn't know if it had figs. So this proves to those who think that Jesus knew everything while he was man walking on the earth that he didn't. He didn't. He had limitations like we have limitations. So it says, and seeing from afar a fig tree having leaves, he went to see if perhaps he would find something on it, meaning he didn't know if it would have anything on it or not. He went to see because he didn't know. Maybe it would, even though he knew it wasn't the season for figs. When he came to it, he found nothing but leaves, for it was not the season for figs. In response, Jesus said to it, let no one eat fruit from you ever again. And his disciples heard it. He came, he looked, it was just leaves, no figs. He was still hungry. He knew it wasn't the season for figs, but still, for some reason, the fig tree should have borne figs for him. Between the time when he saw it and the time when he arrived. I'm serious. This is how things operated for Jesus because of who he was. He had just entered Jerusalem as the king, and all these people were in front and behind, crying out who he was, knew who he was, knew what he was coming to do, not exactly, but pretty much. And they were there giving their clothing even. And here was a fig tree. And the fig tree, if Jesus could see the fig tree could see Jesus. It's like if you're in your window looking out at someone on the street and you think you can't be seen, think again. Unless the sun's reflecting off the window and hiding you that way, right? But if you can see them, they can see you. And that's the same with the fig tree. Jesus saw it from afar, therefore the fig tree saw him from afar. And it did not recognize him, or it did and it rebelliously did not produce the fruit for him, knowing he's the king. And his response was that, let no one eat fruit from you ever again. That's a harsh command, but you just had the people ushering in his way into Jerusalem as king. And those people who refuse to acknowledge him as king are the fig tree. When he comes in and they see him coming and they do not produce fruit, he will do to them as the fig tree. May no one ever eat fruit from you again. May you become a worthless fruit tree, because your only purpose is really to produce fruit to eat. Some people are like that too with their gender, is that they know what they're supposed to do. Be fruitful and multiply. It's a simple command. It's a simple command. And it's to do something that you already desire to do. You desire to have sex with the opposite gender. It's natural. It's part of you. Unless you've been messed up. If you've been messed up because of something, because of poisonous thoughts and ideas put in your head by evil people, if you've been messed up by abuse, sexual abuse as a child, if you've been messed up because your father wasn't there in the home, which is many people today, then you're messed up with your gender, most likely. It would be amazing for you to be spared from that. In any or all of those situations would be terrible. Because we're designed by God with our hormones and everything, the whole system, our brain, everything, to want to have sex with the opposite gender. Why? So we would be fruitful and multiply. And yet, we know we should, and yet we don't. We got all kinds of poisonous memes in our heads. Overpopulation of the world, scarcity of resources, etc., etc., etc. Ignore those. Those aren't from God. Those are man's estimation of the situation. It's not from God. From God, it says, be fruitful and multiply. Sexual immorality is using your sexuality in any way other than that. Any way other than that. Be fruitful and multiply. Because if you don't, Jesus may say, may no one ever eat fruit from you again. May you never produce anything useful in terms of offspring, children, ever again. You must be fruitful and multiply. You say, Ron, how can you be so bold to say that everyone should do that? Because everyone should do that. You're a male, you're a male. You're a female, you're a female. If you happen to be born in one of these extremely, extremely rare exceptions where there's some confusion in your biology, God understands it. He does. He understands it. He has mercy and grace in those situations. It doesn't mean that that gives license for everyone else to be that way. No, it doesn't absolve you who are normal in your biology to function normally in your gender. And that includes roles. Men are to be providers and protectors. Women are not to be providers or protectors. No. Women are to be helpmeets. Yes, women are to be helpmeets. They are to make the home. So the man wants to live there, wants to be there. The man is to protect the home and to provide for the home. So she has some resources to use to make the home. You see the roles and how they work like this? That's how it's supposed to be. And those of you like Frank Turek, who's a mediocre apologist, some people go, oh, he's so amazing. He's mediocre. He's really mediocre. He backpedals on gender. He says men and women are just the same, just different roles. Has he ever seen a woman naked? I mean, he has a wife. He should know that they're not the same. Has he ever interacted with a woman personally on a day-to-day basis like his wife? If he has, he should know that we're not the same. We're not the same with just different roles. Or even if you want to throw in a different biology, which you can't ignore, we're still not the same. Our psychology, our hopes, all kinds of things, the way that we think in our heads are completely different. Men have a greater separation between the two. Women have connections across the two that make it so that they can't stop thinking about 10 things at once all the time. Poor women. I have no idea how you manage that. But us men, we can cut it down to like 2. Sometimes 1. That's why we can dive deep on a subject and just stay on that subject and get deep and really plumb the depths of it. Whereas a woman, as she's trying to do that, she gets scattered off onto this and this and this and this and this. And you say, well, I'm a man and I get that too. Yeah, I understand. Because sometimes we have that from our environment of spending too much time with our mother growing up, or with our mother and sisters growing up, instead of with our father apart from the women. There's a reason those things are supposed to be that way. The boys at a certain age are supposed to be spending more time with their father than with their mother. Okay? So we've gotten through the first visit to the temple and the first fig tree. And we've taken and also run off onto a parallel to that about gender and the roles of the genders, and be fruitful and multiply, and how God may curse you so that you do not have progeny if you do not do that, because you've been given that by the King. May the Lord bless you as you seek Him with all your heart. Remember to subscribe down below and like the video and share it on your Facebook and other social media. And then make a comment, whether a question or a comment. We read all of them, and we try to respond to all. Get on over to our website, The Rooted Word, and start reading the translation and also the articles we've posted. It's at therootedword.com, therootedword.com. And may the Lord bless you as you seek Him with all your heart.